XRP's global journey is making headlines everywhere, except, it seems, the United States. Now just imagine, right? German TV hosts are excitedly discussing XRP's future, while American newscasters act like it does not even exist. It's almost like there is an XRP blackout in the US media. And today I want to share the story of how I discovered this gap, and why I believe that it won't last forever. So, some German analysts are live on air calling XRP the next big thing. Yet here, back in the US, I can't find a peep about it in the CNBC, right? Is there really an XRP media blackout in America? So, I had to dig into this mystery, and what I found has both me frustrated and incredibly excited about what is coming next. Okay, so I have been tracking XRP for a while, and lately I've noticed something a bit strange. The rest of the world is talking about XRP's big moves, but in the United States, mainstream media is just oddly quiet. It's kind of like one of crypto's most talked about assets became a taboo topic on the American television. Now, that got me wondering, why the sudden silence, or why the silence altogether, and what are we all missing here? Well, in this video, I'm going to take you through my personal journey uncovering the truth behind this so-called XRP media blackout. So by the end, you're going to see why this silence could be a blessing in disguise and how it might all change overnight. Now, here is a quick reminder though. We do have a free educational Discord. The link is in the description. It's where our community, they share insights on things like this every single day. Now, you just don't want to miss out on that collective knowledge, so you can check out the link that's in the description. Now, let's go ahead and dive into this story. So picture this, right? I'm scrolling through Twitter the other day, and I see a tweet from someone named Digital Asset Investor. This guy's a pretty well-known voice in the XRP community. Now, he is tagging CNBC's Squawk Box anchors, the big names like Andrew Ross Sorkin and, Joe Karen and stuff like that, right? And basically he's calling them out for just ignoring XRP. He just straight up accused the network of maintaining an XRP media blackout. Now that phrase, it kind of stuck with me a bit here, media blackout. Now, according to this guy, German financial media are way more open about XRP's potential, and he urged the American outlets to tell the truth, at least to their viewers. Now, this wasn't just a random rant, it actually felt like pulling back a curtain on something that everyone has actually been whispering about. Naturally, I was a bit skeptical at first. I thought, is he just exaggerating here? I mean, surely the US media isn't that silent on XRP. But of course, my curiosity was piqued, so I started digging around. Now, the first stop here, what's going on in Germany, right? Because it does turn out that over in Germany, XRP is getting some prime time treatment. I found a segment from a German financial TV program. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, by the way, where this they had this Oliver Mitchell, the CEO of an investment firm, on air just talking about XRP. And get this, right? He wasn't just giving a generic comment here or there. He was breaking down the price levels on television. Now, Mitchell noted that XRP had been trading in a rather tight range, between $2 and $3 since late 2024. Now, a range that he cheekily kind of called the money, or this dump money zone, right? And I have to admit, I kind of laughed at the term a bit, dump money zone. It's kind of a blunt way to describe a rather boring range where the impatient traders might be dumping their XRP. Now, he went on to say that the real, or at least a real breakout for XRP, it would likely only happen if it climbs past $2.60 to $2.70, which he describes as a crucial level for an upward movement. Now, here I am, watching this German TV clip, giving me a bit more insight into XRP's price dynamics than maybe the entire week of American financial TV. And it's not just one show. Apparently, German analysts and broadcasters have been consistently covering XRP's role in global payments and Ripple's expanding network of bank partnerships. Right? They're talking about how XRP is being used to move money across the borders, how Ripple, the company that's behind XRP, keeps announcing new connections with financial institutions. Basically, all of the real-world stuff that makes XRP more than just another coin. German media understands the assignment. As the saying goes, they see XRP making waves internationally, and they're keeping their audience informed. Meanwhile, over in the United States, if you flip on mainstream business news, you hear plenty about Bitcoin and maybe a bit about Ethereum, but XRP, it's kind of like Voldemort, right? The coin that must not be named. Now, the contrast is quite stark, isn't it? On one side of the Atlantic, there's the XRP in the spotlight, and on the other side, it's lurking in the shadows. By this point, I was feeling a mix of frustration and, of course, validation. I'm frustrated here because as a kind of US-based XRP follower here, I realized that we might be missing out on some of those important discussions. Right? Validation because it proved that many in the XRP community have been suspecting, right, that the media silence in the United States is real. It's almost like the first rule of America crypto media is you do not talk about XRP. But hold on, because I did have to be fair here. Is it really a total blackout, or are there just some moments when the US outlets could not ignore XRP? Well, I wanted to find out the truth here, not just to feed my own confirmation bias, of course. So this is where the story gets rather interesting, because as I dug deeper, I found that US mainstream media hasn't been completely silent, right? They have just been selective, shall we say. I think of it this way, right, as maybe only speaking up when something really big happens. For instance, right, just this week, right, CNBC actually did report on Ripple, the company that's behind XRP, because there was some major news. Ripple's annual event, Swell 2025, had just happened, and Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple's CEO, announced that Ripple is transforming from a crypto payments company into a broader, full-scale financial service company, with XRP at its core. Now, he talked about targeting financial or traditional finance, right, and integrating XRP's ledger technology as a settlement layer for the banks. That was huge, right? And CNBC, they did cover it. So it's not like they never talk about XRP. It's just that they wait until a bombshell drops that's impossible to ignore. It turns out that other big outlets also have had their moments too. I mean, back in August, USA Today, not a crypto blog, but USA Today, right? Named XRP as one of the top cryptocurrencies for people with a small budget. Right? They highlighted XRP's real-world utility, think fast transactions, low fees, right? And the fact that it had gained some regulatory clarity after those high-profile courtroom battles. Now that's a mainstream US publication giving XRP some props for being practical and relatively safer in regulatory terms. And then there's Forbes. Forbes, they kind of owe XRP a bit of an apology, don't they? Because early 2024, Forbes ran a piece calling Ripple a zombie, right? Kind of implying that it was as good as dead. But you can fast forward to now, and Forbes published a new outlook saying that XRP is the new beats in town, suggesting that it's one of the exciting ones to watch in the coming years. Quite the 180-degree turn, right? But even Bloomberg and Fox Business have covered XRP on occasion too, usually when Ripple won a big lawsuit or even struck a huge partnership deal. So the US media has acknowledged XRP, but only during headline-worthy spikes or victories. The day-to-day development stuff, the stuff that keeps the XRP community excited, still actually flies under the radar. So discovering this, it made me pause for a moment. Maybe it's not a grand conspiracy with media bigwigs in a smoky room deciding that we shall not mention XRP, but perhaps it's more about what editors consider newsworthy. Right? Bitcoin and Ethereum often steal the spotlight, and XRP's story was entangled in a rather long SEC lawsuit for years. It's not exactly the feel-good content that they want to repeat daily, is it? Now, some producers might think that average viewers won't really care about XRP until it either explodes in price or is being adopted by every bank on the planet. But as someone who's deeply in the crypto trenches, I know so much happens in between those big moments, and that's kind of where specialized outlets and independent content creators like this channel here really do step on in. So let's circle back to the community then, because this media blackout debate is definitely a hot topic among XRP holders. Now on our Discord, for example, people have been torn about this. Some truly do believe that there's intentional suppression that is going on here. I've heard theories that maybe some powerful figures don't want XRP gaining the attention until they've secured their own position, like they're accumulating quietly or waiting for an official green light before telling the masses. It sounds a little bit conspiratorial, right? But hey, in crypto, we've learned not to dismiss the wild stuff just simply outright. In fact, the article that actually started me on this entire journey noted that some in the XRP community see the lack of US coverage as deliberate, as if the asset is being kept under the radar until major price breakthroughs actually occur. Now that suspect, they suspect, I should say, that once XRP is ready to shoot to the moon, then the media will suddenly flip the switch and start covering it, perhaps after the big players have gotten in really cheaply. It's just a juicy thought, isn't it? On the other hand, there is a whole different perspective that I find actually rather interesting and a bit more comforting. Many XRP veterans say, who really cares about the mainstream media? This quiet is actually a blessing. Now, the logic here is, as long as XRP is not front page news every single week, there's less hype to drive a frenzy. Now that means that the true believers can just keep on accumulating and building positions without the frenzy of FOMO buyers swarming in because CNN ran a story on it. Now, in the article that I read, they actually mentioned that people are calling the lack of coverage a blessing in disguise, allowing long-term investors to accumulate quietly. And some even argue that it doesn't really matter at all whether the US media even cover XRP, right? If the tech is solid and the adoption is happening behind the scenes, the price and the success will take care of themselves in the longer run, media hype or not. One commentator responded to Digital Asset Investor by basically saying, does it really matter? The important thing is that institutional adoption is happening everywhere around us. That is what counts. Now, I found myself nodding along at that one. I mean, if banks, payment companies, and even governments are starting to use or even recognize XRP, and many are quietly, then eventually, results speak louder than TV anchors. Now, it's true. Over the past few years, we've seen Ripple sign deals with big financial players and even explore central bank digital currencies. That's the real infrastructure that's being built, right? So one could argue that mainstream coverage is just noise. The signal is actually the adoption. But let's be real. As much as I can tell myself I don't need CNBC's validation, it still kind of irks at me, that major milestones go unmentioned in the United States media, right? It's frustrating when, let's say, a huge bank in Asia uses XRP for cross-border transfers, and the US media is just busy obsessing over the latest meme coin instead. Jokes, of course, but you kind of just feel like yelling, hello, can we talk about the elephant in the room? Right? The XRP community, it isn't shy, right? Voices like Digital Asset Investor and many others on crypto Twitter and YouTube here, they keep insisting that, American media owe it to the public to cover XRP fairly. After all, XRP has been on one of the most enduring and sometimes controversial crypto assets of all time. It's earned a mention or two, don't you think? Now, this one might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so with that reality check out of the way, let's get back into the story here. You see, despite all of the frustration, I have a strong feeling that this so-called media blackout is living on borrowed time. Why? Because the truth has a way of always coming out, and XRP's story is getting too big to ignore. Every week I see new signs of XRP's global momentum, right? It's being talked about in financial hubs from London to Singapore. It's featured in discussions about the future of cross-border payments. Heck, even the United States media had to cover the fact that XRP was declared not a security, at least for those programmatic sales, right? Now, that is a landmark court ruling, right? And that was a headline that no one could skip over. As regulatory clarity improves in the United States, I suspect that media will feel safer talking about XRP without fearing they're promoting some illegal security, right? We are already seeing the shift here. That CNBC piece about Ripple essentially becoming a new kind of financial giant is evidence of this. It's kind of like the first cracks in the dam. You see, here's what I think. The next big catalyst could blow the coverage door wide open. Maybe it's a major bank announcing that it's going to use XRP openly. Maybe it's the price ripping past its previous all-time high. Whatever it's going to be, once that happens, even the skeptics on mainstream channels will have to sit up straight and take notice. And when that day comes, a lot of casual investors might say, wait, why have I never heard about this? Why didn't anyone tell me? And that's when the frustration of today might turn into a bit of a told you so satisfaction for those of us who have been paying attention to the details. Now, I'm optimistic that eventually good technology and real utility will win out. XRP has been around for over a decade, not some fly-by-the-night coin with promises of trust me bro, right? It has a community, it has use cases, it has got resilience. Those qualities will force the spotlight its way, with or without the mainstream media's initial willingness to do so. Also, I have to mention here, crypto worlds, they change pretty fast, right? Today's underdog can become tomorrow's headline hero. I remember when mainstream media wouldn't even touch Bitcoin in its very early days, except to call it a scam or a joke. And look at it now. Daily ticker on CNBC. Household name. XRP's journey has been a little bit different. It's got its own hurdles, but if it keeps proving itself in the real world, the US media can only stay silent for so long. And we, the community, are not going to be staying silent. We're on Twitter, we're on Discord. Seriously, join the free Discord. It's full of free insights, and it's linked in the description below. I'm even here on YouTube spreading the news that others simply won't, right? In at least a way, we're filling the gap that mainstream media won't cover. And I find that kind of awesome too. It's decentralization of the information, right? Even if sometimes the content gets taken down off of YouTube because we say the wrong word here or there, or maybe use the wrong word in a title or two, right? Now, we don't have to wait for Forbes or Fortune to validate what we already know. Now, all of this talk of big future moments has me thinking. Now, as an XRP enthusiast, what am I doing to be ready for all of this? Well, because media blackout or not, if XRP really is poised for a breakout, then I don't want to be caught scrambling, right? So one thing that I've learned in crypto, and if you've been around, you'll nod your head in agreement here, is that when markets get hot, exchanges get overloaded. Now, we've seen it before. During bull runs, some exchanges will halt signups or go down temporarily due to heavy traffic. Now, the last thing that you're going to want is to finally hear that XRP is blasting off on the evening news, and you can't even log in to buy or to sell because your exchange has gone kaput, or you never even verified your account, so now you need to do KYC and there's a long wait list there. So what do? I have a personal rule. Always have a plan A, plan B, and a plan C when it comes to the exchanges. In practice, that means that I've signed up for multiple different exchanges, fully completed the KYC verification where I needed to, and I've tested them out with small trades before I actually need them. Now, I cannot stress this enough. It's like diversifying your investments. You've got to diversify your on-ramps and your off-ramps too. If exchange A has an issue, you can hop over to exchange B. If exchange B is down, you've got an exchange C to go to, right? This way, you're not just reliant on a single point of failure. Like having multiple exits in that movie theater. You hope you're never going to need them in an emergency, but it's good to know that they are there. Now, speaking of being prepared, I actually am really excited to share something new that we've set up just for this community. Now, I've partnered with Kraken's crypto exchange to hook you guys up with a very special deal to boost your XRP holdings and get you battle ready for that next big bull run. Now, here is the deal. If you sign up for Kraken through my partnership link that's in the description down below, then you trade at least $100 worth of any cryptocurrency, excluding the stablecoins, within 30 days of opening your account. Kraken will reward you with $25 worth of XRP for free. That's right, you trade $100 and you get $25 in XRP as a bonus. It's basically a 25% gain in XRP for just doing what you might have done anyway. Now, this is a limited time offer, so if you are listening to this right now, it's a great opportunity to not only accumulate a little bit more XRP, but also get yourself set up on one more reliable exchange ahead of the next big market movements. Now, I've always been a fan of Kraken. It's one of the oldest and most reputable exchanges that is out there, and they're literally giving you XRP to try them out. That is a win-win situation. You increase your stack and you gain another platform as part of your backup plan. Just remember, check out the website for all of the terms and conditions, because there are some fine print details that you're going to need to know, such as not every jurisdiction being eligible to participate. Now, yes, this is a partnership, which means if you do use the link that's in the description down below, that's an affiliate link that supports the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. That there, I have to obviously tell you about to make sure everything is really transparent. That's a FTC compliance checkbox, if you will, but you know, I just want to be transparent with everyone. You'll also find a link to my website in the description down below, where I list all of the exchanges that I do personally use. Again, the links on my website, those are affiliate links, but they are exchanges that I actually use. I only have affiliate links for platforms that I too personally use. I don't recommend anything that I won't use myself. Anyway, I genuinely do think that the whole Kraken thing is a very sweet deal, and I wouldn't be mentioning it if it wasn't. So if you've been on the fence about joining Kraken, well, this might just give you the nudge, or at least be the nudge from the universe and from me that you needed. All right, so that's the plug over, but I did have to share that because I love seeing you guys get some more XRP, especially as a reward, and of course, being prepared, right? You're going to thank yourself later when everyone and their grandmother is rushing to make accounts during the next hype wave, and you're already comfortably set up. Anyway, let's get back to the bigger question here. Is there a US media blackout on XRP, and does it even really matter? Well, after going through all of this little adventure with me, then you're probably going to see it like I do. The truth is somewhere actually in the middle. Yes, the mainstream media has largely been silent, or, you know, I guess sporadic about XRP, especially compared to places like Germany, where it's regularly in the news. Now, that silence can be infuriating when you know that there is so much actually happening, right? But it's also not a total blackout, is it? When XRP's story gets just too big to ignore, well, we've seen the headlines happen, even in the United States. The frustration that we feel today might actually be setting the stage for something bigger, a bigger I told you so that might happen tomorrow or next week or next month or next year, right? Because when XRP finally does command broad attention, and I believe that that day will be coming, then a lot of people will wish that they had been listening much earlier on. In the meantime, though, I choose to stay optimistic, right? I see the global coverage, I see the progress, I see that I am excited, right? And whether or not CNBC wants to talk about it daily, XRP is out there making history in real time anyway. And you and I, well, we're not just waiting for the media to catch up, are we? We're here, we're sharing information, we're learning, and we're preparing ourselves for the future. One day, when the US media outlets end their quiet treatment of XRP and everyone acts surprised at this new thing, well, we'll be the ones that will be smiling because we knew all along and we positioned ourselves accordingly. Think of it like being an early explorer who mapped out a land before the rest of the world even believed that the land existed. Well, there's a pride in that, isn't there? There's also, I guess, responsibility too, to use that knowledge, to use it wisely, and to help other people understand it when that time does come. So, if you're feeling frustrated about the lack of coverage, channel that energy into positivity. Stay informed through alternative sources like our Discord or crypto news sites, the community channel, or all of our other crypto-based YouTube channels. We actually have 5 of them, by the way. And get yourself ready for the moment when the curtain lifts. Now, the XRP media blackout in the United States, it cannot last forever. And honestly, if XRP achieves what we think that it's going to, and it might do in the future, revolutionizing cross-border payments and bridging traditional finance with crypto, then by the time that the mainstream media is blaring it into the headlines, we're already going to be ahead of the curve anyway. And as I say, first they ignore you, then suddenly you're an overnight sensation, right? We've been there, building conviction in the quiet, right? The noise will come eventually. So if you found this story enlightening and you want to join me for the rest of the XRP adventures, well, you can make sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button and stay tuned, because big things are on the horizon and you won't want to miss what is going to happen next. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.